Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Tour Catch Up,
The US and Australia are upset at home,
we preview the Billie Jean King and Laver Cups.
and 17-year-old Iva Jovic becomes the youngest title winner this year.
Chris, today is the 15th of September, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. Man, it feels really good to say that because we have been doing a lot of US Open episodes. I think we did 9 in total, but no more. We are back into tour catch-up mode, and we have plenty to discuss. We have the Davis Cup Final 8 confirmed. The Billie Jean King Cup Finals are also underway, and we've got some tournaments as well. Iva Jovic has won, teenage sensation. Got looking forward to talking about that. Laver Cup as well. Chris, there is plenty to talk about, and we are back on our usual time zones.
We are, Joel. And also, it seems like maybe you've kind of forgotten 2 of the other episodes we did. We did 11 episodes for the US Open. So
maths is not my strong point.
No, neither is the recording schedule. So we've done pretty well. But I was going to say a welcome to any listeners who we might have picked up during the US Open. This is our regular scheduling. So we do things a bit differently. It's a little bit less intense than when we're at a Grand Slam, isn't it, Joel?
Indeed it is. And we're going to have a mailbag as well. And we've got a game as also coming up in the second half. So definitely pay attention to that. And we'll be previewing all the tournaments as well.
All of
as
them.
we head. All of them. Just all of them. Every single tournament. But those specifically as we head into the Asia swing. But Chris, I mean, let's start with what we usually start with. And that is what caught our attention this week. What caught your attention?
Well, I was going to say quickly, something that caught my attention today is that the ballot has been extended at Wimbledon, the ballot deadline, due to technical sort of failures they seem to have had on the site over the weekend. So if you are someone who struggled to enter the ballot over the weekend and you're panicking that you thought the deadline was, I think it was the 17th or the 16th, it's actually now the 21st. So you do still have time. So that caught my eye, but it wasn't necessarily the story of the last week for me,
That's very
Joel.
un-Wimbledon.
Very un-Wimbledon.
What's happened?
I'm not sure. I feel like maybe a contractor might be getting fired because that is quite a bit of a failure from their part potentially. But hopefully everyone will still be able to get their ballot entries in. Joel, I hope you have as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I had forgotten about it a little bit. So I'm sure some of our listeners may have also forgotten about it. So I'm actually quite thankful the deadline.
Love a deadline extension.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I do need to get on that. Listeners, make sure, if you want to get onto Wimbledon, make sure you get your entry in. The ballot has been extended. There you go. This is your moment. But
pause the podcast. Do it now.
pause it, and then come back. Make sure,
definitely come back.
But what did catch your eye on the tour this week, aside from Wimbledon ballot shenanigans?
Well, I mean, Carlos Alcaraz caught my eye once again for his hair. He's been doing more things. He's probably the most unserious person on tour when it comes to...
We just need a podcast just assigned to his hair
segment.
Updates.
Maybe it could be in the second half. You know, we normally have the mailbag, a talking point. We could just make it a permanent fixture. But
is there a parody account on Twitter? I feel like there must be already. Someone must have thought that.
He might be doing it himself because he actually did tease the big reveal for his new hair with a blonde wig. So that's something that he did. He did tease that maybe he was going blonde, and then we saw that he had foils on his hair. He's actually gone pretty much completely white. Is that they're so blonde? It's almost like I mean, you can see it in the picture that I've just shared with Joel now, but I mean, it's almost like luminous. It really is quite something. It kind of takes sort of toner to the next level. And I want to get your first reaction, Joel. I mean, what do we think? I mean, I quite like it. And you normally like a blonde sort of change up from the tour.
Is this? Yeah, it's giving me kind of. Hang on, he's done this like way too late or way too early for Wimbledon. I know there's an all white policy for Wimbledon, and maybe is he, having a little practice run for when the tournament rolls around next summer.
Well, I mean, he's getting ready for that. I think most players... Bit too early in time for the ballot. But most players, when they do it, they tend to go that sort of weird, sort of bright, sort of yellow or sort of like the strange sort of...
I mean, footballers normally do it for like big tournaments like the World Cup and the Euros. But maybe
Laver
this
Cup
is
could be for the Laver
yeah.
Cup. It's hard to know. I think he's just having fun with it. But Joel, I was going to say there was a lineup posted online of some of the times when ATP players have gone blonde. You might remember last year Taylor Fritz had the incident which he got rid of pretty quickly. Fognini's also done it. Casper Ruud. I forgot about Roger Federer going blonde in his early sort of years. But I was going to say, who out of that lineup do you think did it best? Or is Alcaraz our winner?
I'm looking at the photos now. I still think Roger Federer has got
the goat of
I think
blonde.
he's got the edge. Yeah. I would still say Taylor Fritz. That lasted like a minute. And I didn't think that was a great look for him, but I think Roger Federer. I think he styled it out. I think anything Roger Federer does, he can style it out.
Yeah.
And I still think this worked very well on him. But for Alcaraz, I'm not sure. It's gone white. It's blonde. I'm not sure.
It's going to go back to normal very quickly. It's very short at the moment, and I think there are already some pictures of him training. And you can see the roots coming through. So probably by the time the Laver Cup kicks off, I can talk about the fact his hair is back to normal next week. So that's what I was paying attention to, Joel. But were you paying attention to anything else more tennis related?
I was back in the tennis gossip columns as I normally am.
It's been a while since we've really been there.
And there was some news that broke this week. Listeners, I don't know if you saw that Holger Rune has been back into some WTA Tour player DMs. And
Who this week? Who was it?
Who was it this week? It was Yannick Sinner's ex, Anna Kalinskaya.
Goodness.
Who was in an interview and said Holger Rune wrote to her 10 times and then gave up.
Wow.
He writes to everyone, it seems. He thinks too much of himself, but he's not the only one like that. Kalinskaya, shots fired to the ATP Tour and Holger Rune.
Oh, she must be annoyed someone translated the Russian interview because, Shakvidatse's got a few exclusives going. Former top 5 player herself. Now it seems like she's just sort of, maybe doing what we're doing, the gossip column side of things right now. But he did fire back. Did you see this, Joel?
Oh, what did he say?
He said, ha ha ha, we might have cultural differences that make Anna read a comment on a story as an invitation to date.
Ooh.
If I want to go on a date, I ask for a date.
He's backpedaling.
Yeah, so, he did backpedal, but he also did the same to Kudermetova, who said that she had a husband to him and he should check out her Instagram profile. So Holger making the headlines, not necessarily for the right reasons, and not the best week on tour for him in the Davis Cup either.
Indeed. And we're going to get on to now the Davis Cup action because it was very, very tense, very, very exciting. A lot of hot-headed moments across the matches. But we do now have our final 8 intact. And that is Spain, Italy, Germany, France, Czechia, Belgium, Austria, Argentina. We're going to be talking about some of the headlines from all of these ties. Chris, some big names not there. USA and Australia. Let's start there before we get into Holger Rune versus what felt like the whole of Spain. But America not going to be at the finals, taken out at home at Delray Beach by the Czech Republic, who came through. Their captain, Thomas Berdych, led them to victory. What did you make of this result? 3-2 in the end. I think the USA were 2-1 up. It looked like it was, all intents and purposes, going to be going their way, particularly at home, with quite a strong squad. But yet again, America just not living up to their pedigree in the tennis world.
Yeah, we were talking earlier in the year about just how strong the strength and depth is in American tennis. I think when TFO was also ranked in the top 20, they had like 4 players in the top 20, almost 4 in the top 15, now 3. But there's a few players that were injured for this one. Tommy Paul had to pull out injured. He's also pulled out of the Laver Cup now. And the same with Ben Shelton, who was actually courtside cheering on his team. So he still did what he could to support them, but it wasn't enough to kind of rally them through. And the big match has to be when Taylor Fritz actually, lost to Lehechka. I think that's the result that really this match
that was like,
on.
uh-oh.
Then it's like, oh gosh, this really has given them hope in this sense. And then, they've got a great team. Mensik also very good, very promising, won a Masters title this year. But, You would think at home this would be a slam dunk for the Americans, but I mean, they've been upset by Finland before.
Yeah, I mean,
And
why is
now
it? It's just an ongoing trend. What is it about America and Davis Cup? Even what feels like the most perfect conditions at home after the US Open, so not even that far to travel, in front of your home crowd. Why is it that they just can't seem to, back up former glories and rise to the occasion?
got to be the pressure of the fact that they are expected to win. They have got such a great team, and there is quite a lot of focus on team sports for the Americans. They also underperformed when it came to some of the different doubles that was played and singles at the Olympics. I think actually Fritz did pick up a medal. And potentially, was there another medal in the doubles? I can't remember, but it wasn't the result that people would think at the Olympics either. So the pressure's obviously quite a lot. They are a very big sort of team nation, but it happens on the women's side as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the Billie Jean King Cup, because many a Billie Jean King Cup final, Joel, we've been watching the USA struggle or limp out of the competition despite having strength and depth in numbers.
Yeah, not great for America to get there. But having said that, I mean, Czechia do have some fantastic number one and number twos in Jiří Lehečka and Jakub Menšík. That feels like a real tricky partnership for any country to deal with. And it was interesting to hear their coach or their captain, sorry, Tomas Berdych. He actually spoke about the preparation. He was like noting the preparation of the USA. And he sort of said that they weren't going about it in the right way. So I do also wonder if there was a little bit of arrogance from the USA in thinking that they could just turn up and roll over Czechia and make it through to the finals. So, yeah, quite interesting. Czechia do go through. And interestingly, Berdych does have a chance at history. And I didn't realize how few times this has been done, Chris. Only four people have won the Davis Cup as a player and as a coach or captain.
Ooh.
And I was thinking about making this a little game, but it is very hard to name some of these names. The last person to do it was Albert Costa with Spain.
Kim would definitely have got that. So
2000s.
Kim, if you're listening, she probably was screaming that, at her screen, just thinking, I've got this one. It's a Spanish answer, but I'm not sure I can name anyone else.
Yeah, I mean Arthur Ashe also did it in the 70s and 80s, but yeah, not something that happens too often. But who knows? Maybe Tomas Berdych can lead Czechia to victory if they can keep Menšík and Lehečka fit. Who knows? They are going to be quite tricky to deal with. I mean, another big powerhouse of the tennis world that got upset at home was Australia, who were defeated by Belgium 3-2 in Sydney. And Chris, I mean, the story here really was a surprise package in the name of Raphael Collignon, who won both his singles rubbers. And some incredible scenes at the end of the tie with Belgium going absolutely wild on the tennis court. But this was a huge upset as well.
It was huge, and he was cramping against de Minaur. It looked like he was down and out, and he still managed to kind of get himself up and win that match. So huge credit to him. But he's the world number 89, and de Minaur is normally so good playing for his country. Again, Is it the pressure of being at home? It was played in the Ken Rosewell Arena. Harder to say than you think in Sydney. So you just think that, being at home might also have added to the expectation that there was. But then he backed it up, and he also took out Jordan Thompson. So he was the MVP of that tie, and he's not done much, has he, Joel?
No, I mean, he did kind of... I was looking at his results this year. He had a good win against Casper Ruud at the US Open.
Double faults galore serving that one out. That was messy, but...
It was messy. I mean, that was a good result for him. I guess he's informed somewhat. He had a little bit of a good run at the US Open. So continuing that on. But still a very kind of surprising result. And interesting as well to note, Leighton Hewitt, the captain, pushed a doping official and got a 2-week ban for it, along with a fine of 30,000 Aussie dollars. This was I was a bit surprised by this, but reading into this a little bit more, it doesn't actually feel like this suspension means a whole lot.
No, because he's suspended at a time when there is no Davis Cup tennis. So his involvement would be pretty much nothing anyway. It is just after this period. I think it starts from the 24th of September. And, obviously they're out now. So there's no duties for him as captain. But, I mean, pushing a doping volunteer is not necessarily the best move from Leighton Hewitt. He is a bit of a hothead at times. He said it was self-defense, and there is video footage of this, and I mean, it's been ruled that it wasn't okay. I'm not sure why you'd be pushing, an anti-doping volunteer anyway, a chaperone. Very strange. I'm glad he's been fined for it because it doesn't seem like it's good behavior. But do you think this sort of upset the spirit in the team?
Yeah, possibly. It doesn't. I don't think it probably helped. Helped matters, and. Yeah, I feel like maybe the fine is bigger than the suspension because the suspension just feels a little bit of a slap on the wrist. And sometimes it's just a growing theme this season of when these things do happen. It just feels like they're done in the most convenient way to say, look, we know this happened. We need to show some sort of action, but we're going to give you the most minimal penalty of all.
So we should do a poll for Twitter, maybe for X, to see what was the most convenient suspension. Was it Yannick Sinner or Leighton Hewitt for pushing the anti-doping volunteer?
I just have to clarify. Rafael Collignon, he beat Alexander Vukic with the deciding win on Sunday.
So they swapped in Vukic in the end.
Yes. So he defeated Vukic and de Minaur. So not a bad weekend's work for Collignon. We'll see if he can replicate that on the tour. But yes, they are through. Australia are not through. And one big nation that was able to actually survive an upset was Spain. And they came back from 2-0 down at home against Denmark. And Chris, this was very spicy. I think you could sort of you could understand the sort of the story of the tie through Holger Rune. We've spoken about Holger Rune's DMs, but we've got to speak about Holger Rune on the tennis court because he had the chance to win it for Denmark. He had that match point against Pedro Martinez in the fourth rubber, wasn't able to get it done. And he was not a happy chappy on the court. David Ferrer was getting involved as well. There was some comments coming out with Rune saying there's a clear difference between the manners of Danish and Spanish people with differences in education. They were unsportsmanlike. I think he was referring to the Spanish crowd. But yeah, a very spicy
Goodness, that's giving Ostapenko Townsend, isn't it? Education. Basically. I mean, that's... I guess he means tennis etiquette is what we will have to assume there, hopefully. But very, very close to winning.
It sounded like Rune did not have a lot of tennis etiquette himself because David Ferrer, I think, he was in cohorts with the referee saying, like, you're not doing anything to penalise Rune, who was, he was quoted allegedly to say F off to the crowd.
Yeah, he did do that. It's hard to really, it's one of those ones where you can see someone mouth something. You don't need to hear it to know what was being said. So not the best behavior at all. Hopefully he will get fined for that behavior. And I think probably it was the heat of the moment those comments came. But at the same time, if you're going to call out, people, you have to also make sure you don't rise to it and go one lower like it looked like he did.
I mean, it's funny. I feel like a lot of people talk about the death of the Davis Cup and all this sort of stuff. But seeing these exchanges, it just shows that when you get players playing for their country, it does bring out it can bring out a different animal or different beast in them. And it just shows that if it can be, I think, manifested or harnessed in the right way, I do think that like the passion and the energy is there, and I think it was all for display in the Spain versus Denmark tie. I mean, we did have results elsewhere from World Group 1, and for British fans, a big result in Poland where UK or Great Britain won. A great debut for Arthur Frey. I think GB, looking good. They're back, I feel like, where they belong. It was interesting. Leon Smith said Great Britain have a really good chance of winning the 2026 Davis Cup. What do you reckon about that, Chris?
I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, just because it's tough to know if you're going to have a fully fit team with Jack. I think we have some good talent there. We do struggle to get the doubles rubbers despite having doubles talent. So that's one thing that I do think is a bit strange about kind of our team in a way that sometimes the US singles players don't get a result. Sometimes our doubles prowess doesn't always translate to a dead cert for that rubber. I think it's good we got the win. I think it's nice to see Norrie leading the team to victory as well.
Does it all depend on Draper, do you think?
It really does, but you can win without your top player. We've seen that before. Like Spain took out a probably stronger Danish side. Norway also got a win without Casper Ruud as well. So it can be done. And even, upsets can happen, like when India actually took out Switzerland. So that's really impressive because they've actually never, I was actually looking this up. I don't think they've had a win against a European nation since 1993, I think is the case there. So a really big win and a big upset there. And I mean, it's why you love Davis Cup, really, is that anyone can win, anyone can lose. And if you think you've got a really good chance, well, I think there's a lot of other teams that think they've got a really good chance too.
Yeah, I mean, one other result I just want to call out, Greece, Brazil. Brazil winning 3-1.
Were you at
Greece.
that match?
I was not at the match. I was in Greece. I was in Corfu on the islands. This was on the mainland in Athens. But I'm surprised they didn't call on kind of local resident Novak Djokovic to try and play for them.
Well, he actually wasn't playing for Serbia. He was watching over in Greece because rumors are he's either has
he's getting a residency.
He's going to reside over in Greece. So I'm not sure how that's going to go down with, the Serbian contingent. I'm not sure he's going to swap his country at any point because he's so proud to be Serbian. But it looks like maybe he'll be watching Stefanos struggle through a few more matches over in Athens.
And one other thing to call out, Chris, because this did go sort of viral on Twitter. It was the overarm drop shot serve by Zsombor Piros in the Austria versus Hungary Davis Cup match. I don't know if listeners, if you've seen the video to this, but this is just like a very bizarre serve that did come off actually for Piros. He did win the point. But what did you make of this serve? Because it was overarm, sort of like a pancake serve is how I would describe it for kind of club level players. Is this like the new underarm serve?
Well, I think it's probably the best way to describe it would be it's giving my second serve when I'm particularly nervous, break point down. This is the sort of thing I rely on to get it into the box. I didn't really understand what the uproar was about because sure, it's not a great serve technically, but you can do an underarm serve. This is not breaching anything. I think we're back in the tennis education and tennis etiquette side of things. And if you did lose the point, you probably just feel extra silly and you're going to complain, even more for the fact that this happened. But I mean, it was quite funny watching it, and maybe he's invented a shot. He should be getting a bit more credit for it.
Well, again, it's it definitely combats players who are standing so far back and from the court, and you just want to drop something in as close to the net as possible. We'll have to see if it does catch on. It does look a little bit beginner, and I think that's the issue. Maybe a lot of fans have of it. It's something that a lot of club players could do.
It is giving club, isn't it?
Yeah, versus maybe an underarm serve. I still think has a little bit more technique. Like there's a little bit more of an art there because there's a bit more spin you can put on it. You can make it go sideways a little bit more. This guy's literally just plonked it flat as short as possible. And yes, it did work. I don't necessarily think it's a viable tactic, but I think it's quite interesting. It's always funny to see people innovate on the tennis court, but I don't think the crowd were particularly happy.
I don't think anyone's calling him a magician for this shot necessarily. But I mean, at the same time, if it does get the job done, I mean, he might still keep doing it. So we'll have to see. But you are recommending that Piros does actually get an underarm serve going if he's going to do a slow one.
Yeah, if you're going to do this, make sure you have the underarm in your back pocket as well.
Makes sense.
Let's move on and talk about what happened on the WTA Tour this week, because we did have a couple of tournaments won by two teenagers. Let's start with the Guadalajara Open. Chris, this is a WTA 500. I'm going to say now, WTA 500 in name, not, I would say, WTA 500 in draw quality. We had Mertens as the top seed, Veronika Kudermetova is the second seed. I mean, yeah, Ostapenko, yes, was there. Magdalena Frech as the fourth seed. But let's put that aside because I want to talk about a player we can get excited about. Iva Jovic, 6-4, 6-1 in the final against Emilia Arango. Another American announcing themselves youngest champion on the tour this year. I mean, she already had that great run in Cincinnati as a lucky loser. Just for our fans who maybe aren't aware of her game, how excited should we get about her and what she's been able to do on the tour at such a young age?
Well, she's a really exciting player to watch. I think she will be a really great future talent. She's part of like that whole group of 17-year-olds who are coming up now. I think it's been a while actually since we had so many good teenagers. We've got Mira Andreeva right up there. Maya Joint's also winning titles. And I actually did see that 7-0 are the teenagers in finals this year. So
Mboko?
Yeah, I mean, it does make you think that these players are just able to play without kind of a fear of the moment and really go after it. But she's played pretty well at junior level as well. She's played really well in junior doubles. She's won the Wimbledon 2024 title in doubles. And she's also reached finals at the French Open and semi-finals at the US Open before she kind of moved to playing professional tennis. So she hasn't necessarily been playing that much on the tour. But I was going to say, at Wimbledon, she actually qualified, but she lost to your new favourite player on the tour, Joel. Who was that?
Suzanne Lamens.
6-1, 6-1, yeah.
Oh.
So
well, I mean, she did lose to I think she lost to Raducanu as well at the US Open. But yeah, she's certainly a very exciting prospect to watch. I mean, obviously very, very early days. I think she's now moving up the rankings. I think she's cracked the top 50.
She has. She's moved up to, I think, about 36. There's a lot of points available. She actually lost to Paolini at the US Open, by the way. But there's a lot of points available.
Oh, my bad.
No worries. There's a lot of... not necessarily a match everyone was watching, in fairness. But no, there are a lot of points available for 500. So the benefit of this being a tournament where there are a lot of points is that you can go right up the ranking. So she's almost skipped that stage of kind of having to try and get into some of those future bigger draws and bigger tournaments by kind of sneaking, probably, if we're being honest, and what you did allude to, the weakest 500 of the year.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's certainly a big opportunity for everyone in the draw, and she has taken it with aplomb. We'll see how she can move on for the rest of the year and pick up more ranking points. Another teenager that won was out in São Paulo, the 250 out there. And I need to just take a moment to say the name correctly. Tiantsoa Rakotomanga Rajaonah. Rajaonah.
That sounds better.
Okay.
We'll give it our best. We will work on it. We'll make sure that we get it for next time.
Listeners, apologies already getting used to this name. But another great win for another teenager against Yanis Chen in straight sets, 6-3, 6-3, 6-4. Chris, another player I'm not totally familiar with, but what did you make of this performance?
Well, I mean, really took the opportunity that she had in the fact that there was this chance to get some points as well. She's much more usually found on the WTA 125 side of things. She did get like a wild card to play the French Open and also went out in the first round, but she's been playing an awful lot on the sort of like the one tier below the WTA level. So she's been playing a lot of the tournaments like Rouen or Saint Malo, those sorts of tournaments where mostly she's done well. So this is quite an unusual result for her because she hasn't had much success when it comes to WTA main level. So quite out of the blue, this one. But either way, a great result for her. And I mean, you can't take something away. We always say when it gets to these sorts of results in some not necessarily stacked draws, you can't take someone away and you can't take a title away from them because they still won it.
Yeah, and a good result as well for Fran Jones from Great Britain getting to the semi-finals. Had a good win against Sierra, the second seed, a player I know all too well from defeating, I think, Katie Boulter at Wimbledon earlier in the year. So a good run from Fran Jones as well. But we're going to take a quick break now. Do join us in the second half where we will be discussing the Laver Cup as it rolls into San Francisco this week. We're going to be debating players prioritizing playing for themselves over their country. And we look ahead to the Asian swing with Iga Swiatek and Emma Raducanu returning to the court in Korea, as well as ATP Chengdu and Guangzhou. And we also have the Billie Jean King Cup Finals in Shenzhen. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast. And we're going to get back to a game from Tennis Weekly HQ. I am not the quizmaster this week, Chris. I believe you are, and you've got a little cheeky par for the courts for me.
Well, I have, and it's in honor of the Billie Jean King Cup. At some points, it's also been the Fed Cup, so it does also count for this. And I know that you're a big fan of both, so I thought I'd put you to the test in a classic par for the courts. So, for listeners who have not done this with us before, there are a certain number of answers to a question I'll be asking, and then we have to set par, and I will set par at what I think Joel should be getting. That's right. I've got it right, Joel?
Yep, that is right. Let's see what you're going to be setting par at and what the category is.
Sometimes, listeners, it is a bit more of a negotiation based on how Joel responds to what the question is. But it's Billie Jean King Cup and Fed Cup winning nations since 2000.
Oh, okay.
So I can tell you that there have been 9 different teams that have won it since the year 2000. And I would quite like you to get, I think 6 would be great.
Whoa.
Do you think I know you pay attention to this though.
Oh, I'm struggling. I think I'm sweating already.
Maybe I'll give you 5 then. See, this is how I get softened by this, but as it's the first week back post slam, shall I give you 5?
Okay, I will try and do 5. I'm not totally confident.
You can keep going for 6 though.
There are some big names, but I don't know if I've got 5. But let's begin. I've got to start with United States.
United States. I can tell you they won it in 2000 and they won it in 2017.
Oh, okay. God, it should be a lot more, shouldn't it?
It really should. You thought that was a safe bet?
Yeah, I thought that was a safe bet.
I'm glad I said 5 now.
I'm going to say Russia.
That is a great answer. They've won it multiple times across the whole period. And they've also defended that title as well before.
I want to say, I don't think it happened very often, but surely it happened with Enan and Clijsters. Belgium.
That is a correct answer.
Oh, yes.
Their only title came in 2001. So
yes.
Very well done.
I went a bit niche, bit early there. So that's 3. Right. I'm going to go with surely Czech Republic.
That is a correct answer. They have won it in many, many times. 2018, 2016, 2015, 2014, 2012, 2011, to name a few. So that was probably an easier one than Belgium, Joel.
Yeah. I just always remember Belgium because just because of Enan and Clijsters. Right. Oh, I've got a couple of other nations. I don't know how confident I am in them. I'm going to say
This is for par, isn't it? Am I correct?
I think I'm on 4. So okay. Yes.
5 for par, 6 to impress me.
I've got 2 countries in my mind, Spain and Italy. I'm going to say, who's more of a banker? I'm going to say Italy.
Italy is a correct answer. They won it last year, Joel.
Oh, yes.
They took out the Brits in the semis.
That.
Yeah, of course. They also won it in 2013, 2010, 2009, and 2006. That was actually quite a
good... And Sarah Rani just won it with everyone, basically.
Yeah, I think she's done every role in that team. She probably is also the captain at this point.
Yeah.
So you've hit par. Congratulations.
par.
Would you like to do a victory tour, a victory lap?
I, yeah, let's say Spain.
I can't give you
No,
Spain. They've made the
no,
final many times in
yeah.
that period, but 1998 was the last time that Spain won the title.
Interesting. Germany?
Germany also not on the list. I can put you out of your misery.
Okay.
Canada, led by Leila Fernandez, won it in
Yes, of course.
2023.
Yeah.
You've also, I believe, witnessed this when Switzerland won it with Jill Teichmann and Belinda Bencic.
Ah.
We were there in Glasgow for that. So I thought that was a little bit of an own goal not getting that one.
Yeah.
And then I was going to say, I can't remember. Did you say France?
France beat Australia, didn't they?
Yes.
I was just thinking about that final.
Yes,
Down under, didn't they?
they did indeed. And then I think that would be your list. So it's Italy, Canada, Switzerland, Russia, France, Czech Republic, USA, Slovakia. Slovakia, the final one. Sorry, Hanchikova, I believe, and Cibulkova getting that victory, and Belgium. So that's your 9.
Wow, there you go. Listeners, let us know. How did you get on? Did you get par? Did you get all of them? Do let us know. But we're going to be moving on to mailbag now. And we received this question on Twitter. So I'm going to say it now. We saw it earlier in the year when Felix Auger-Aliassime skipped the Davis Cup to play a 250 in France. And now Emma Raducanu is doing the same thing by taking a wild card in Korea. There used to be no higher honor than playing for your country, but that seems to have changed. Do you think it's okay, or would you like to see more top players commit to playing Billie Jean King Cup and Davis Cup? Ooh, big question, Chris. Playing for yourself versus playing for your country. The debate is on and very relevant because Emma Raducanu is taking a wild card into Korea. I wonder what Anki Offervong thinks about that. But yeah, where do you stand on the kind of on the debate?
I was pretty brutal in my assessment of what I thought of Felix skipping it. And a lot of our listeners defended him, saying he's actually won it for his team. He's also won, I believe, the United Cup for his team, and he's won a mixed doubles bronze medal. I do think the nature of the game is when it comes to Davis Cup is you should make yourself available unless you are a top player who has just won, the Australian Open and needs to recover from that and isn't fit for it. I think that makes perfect sense. We've seen, Jack Draper had to sit out for it as well. Alcaraz has just won the US Open. And I do think there is a part of it is you can't do everything in a season if you're at the top of the top. So I have some sympathy for those top players. I also do understand that ranking points are important. With Felix, it was less of a crime in my mind because, ultimately it was not the finals. Emma has skipped the finals whilst being the British number 1. And I think there's not enough real media attention around that because it's clear that Emma plays for Emma and doesn't really care about what anyone else thinks, which I think is a reason why a lot of people like her, but also a reason why a lot of people dislike her because this is purely self-interested. She's not doing it for the money. She said she doesn't play for the money. She's doing it for the ranking points and because she thinks there's a really good chance for her to go up the rankings in Asia. So I don't like it. I think, especially if you're in the finals, you do need your top players there. And she didn't have a particularly deep run at the US Open, so she should be fresh. She should be prepared. It is in Asia, so it's just skipping one tournament. So for me, I'm probably with Anne Kiofathong, who I haven't heard what she said about it, but I'm sure she's been tight-lipped but made her point. It's not good.
Yeah, on Raducanu, I don't like it, but I do think it's smart because there's going to be a lot of top players playing in Shenzhen. And whilst that is going on, there is a 500 event in Korea. And yes, Iga Swiatek is the top seed, but certainly, the way the tournament is going and gravitating towards these more glitzy tournaments that are, have more ranking points available, like 500s, the 2-week 1000s. I think, there's an opportunity there to kind of focus on some of these maybe weaker 500 events to secure more ranking points, maybe at times where players have interests elsewhere. You can't do it all. And yeah, I don't think everyone is going to be taking the same, point of view. So I would say I don't like it as a GB fan perspective, but sadly I do understand it. It'll just be interesting, I think, if this were like a qualifier and that team went through to the finals, and that player who hadn't played, would they want to be back in, for example, or, that reintegration? I think, it could cause, friction, and, it could be quite it could change you can change and upset the dynamics possibly.
Is it better if someone says, like I think Federer said before, and some players have said, I'm not playing this year, I'm sitting a year out?
Yeah.
Does that make it better than like a last minute pull out to play a tournament?
Yeah, I think so. I think, if there are private conversations that are being had in terms of, look, I, as an individual, just want to focus on my game this year, therefore I'm not going to play, then I think that's a better situation than deciding last minute, to take a wild card.
Leaving your team high and dry last minute,
exactly.
Like the GB team is quite a lot weakened by that in terms of the combinations that they have, and really needing to get those singles wins. We've got some great players, but I do think there is like a responsibility there. And what would it be like now when Emma does come back to the team? If she does, that's one thing I would say. But having said that, I mean, I think Emma's going to do what Emma's going to do. She skipped the Olympics. She wasn't interested in that either. And that obviously is playing for your country. So
do you think she set a dangerous precedent? Because the fact she's skipping the finals, it's almost like, well, she's not going to play the finals. Why would why would we expect her to play a qualifier?
Well, when she did play against France, she was struggling for form and struggling for matches on clay at the time. And then she did actually win some matches there and played some good tennis. And I think it was good for her. But I do think she probably still got more out of that than kind of everyone else did, because then she obviously then didn't really play much more of the clay swing that year. So it can be good if you're looking for wins and wins against top players. It's tough because you're not going to.
Also, the home factor as well, like, inspiring. You're inspiring the crowd at home. If it is a home tie, you do want players like Raducanu who are going to be able to drum up interest. In the sport in ways that other players might not be able to.
You have to still welcome them back because they're so good and they are the top players in the team. It is a big shame, I think, that you do see some of these players pulling out. We should also say that Osaka pulled out, but she did have a deep run at the US Open. Keys has pulled out from the US team, and I think she's been replaced by another singles player. So there are other players who are doing it, so we shouldn't just say it's just Emma doing this. But obviously Osaka would be their number one. So it's similar in that sort of vein, but you can also see that a deep run at the US Open might also change your schedule.
Yeah, it definitely feels more acute with nations who maybe don't have the depths of a nation like the United States, and perhaps actually the fact that they've got so many top players in the United States, it actually is a detriment to them, because maybe a lot of the players might be thinking, "Oh,
don't need me.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I don't play. You've got all these other
JPEG
great
will be
players."
there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely more acute, I think, for some nations like GB. Having said that, though, I mean, Bolter and Cartal have been playing very good tennis this season. It's perhaps not as dramatic as perhaps it was
Ian Coventry,
a long time ago. A long time ago with like Tim Henman, and even like some stages with Andy Murray at the very start of when GB were in Davis Cup in the real doldrums, like levels and levels below.
But we're not a one-player nation anymore. I think that's what's good on both sides for our side, and that's very much true for the US as well. Without Coco Gauff, 2 of their slam champions this year, they still are at great strength and have a really good chance of winning the title. So it doesn't mean it's all doom and gloom, but it is a decision that I think splits people, and I think a lot of people won't like it. A lot of people understand it. And I think for players who are in that mid-ranking, maybe where Raducanu is now, it's probably at its most tempting to pick up the ranking points when she's on a positive rankings trajectory at the moment.
Yeah, listeners, let us know, where do you stand on the debate of players playing for their nation versus playing for themselves? We are going to move on to an event that is coming up, Chris, the Laver Cup.
Playing for your continent, is that right? No, it's not. The rest of world. Playing for what?
Playing for exactly. A very Marmite event, let's say. Some people love it, some people are unsure about it, some people are like, why does this tournament even exist? But regardless, it is coming up. It is in San Francisco this year. We've got two new captains, Yannick Noah and Andre Agassi, replacing Borg and McEnroe. Yeah. Where do we stand on the Laver Cup heading into 2025? We have the lineups confirmed. We do have Carlos Alcaraz there. There is no Yannick Sinner. We do have Zverev, Rune, TFO, Fritz is playing, Dumanor. Like, there are big names playing, but what's the health check at the moment on the Laver Cup in 2025?
I mean, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because anyone who listens to the podcast will know that I don't really get it. I'm not really sure why. It feels like it's a lot of bravado and walking around in suits for sponsors and not much actual sort of tennis that I enjoy watching. I don't love this as an exhibition format that's kind of invite only, big prize money and pretty exclusive, whilst also being attached to the ATP in some way. I think if you're going to do that, it's got to be the top of the top. I would rather it was an exhibition of past and present players, because I think that would be really entertaining and exciting and engaging. I think people would love to see it, but I'm not sure what we're playing for here, because, the nature of how the teams are stacked has not necessarily always made it the most compelling. I mean, we've got 6 Grand Slam titles amongst the field, and that's just because we've got Carlos Alcaraz. And previously, if you cast your mind back to 2022, we had all of the big 4 were playing it. And I think it made a bit more sense then, because you might not get to see those clashes all the time. And Federer was obviously exiting tennis. Now, I don't get it, Joel. I really don't. I mean, I'm going to get a lot of people saying that they enjoy it. It's a bit different. And I can buy into that. It's different from the tour, but it's not exactly like that elite head-to-heads that we used to have before. And it doesn't land Ryder Cup to me. It doesn't quite reach that height.
Yeah, it's not quite there, is it? With I think the appeal maybe of Ryder Cup, because I'm not a golf fan, but I love watching the Ryder Cup, and I don't necessarily think we are there in terms of does this draw in a general crowd that's different maybe to the tour. And one thing I've always been kind of a little bit kind of doom and gloom about the Laver Cup is that it's just not felt competitive. At times it just has felt like very much like this is Team Europe's to lose. But last year we did get one of the most competitive editions we did have. It was 13-11 to Europe over Team World, and I do think if they can get across the sense that there is real competition here and there's a real sense it could go one way or the other, I think that is compelling and can bring kind of people in. I still think we are in this kind of formative stage. The Ryder Cup obviously has lots and lots of history to it, and I think that adds to the sense of the occasion. But at the moment, I think there's been a few too many editions where it feels like it's been too one-sided towards Team Europe. Particularly, I like to begin with when, in 2021 they won 14-1. That's how crazy it got. Yeah,
not a great one. And you did make the point about the caliber of the players. Again, if this was a 500 event, you'd think fantastic, this is a great lineup. Fritz is obviously the only top 10 player for the rest of world team. Then TFO is sort of up there in the rankings. Cerundolo, there's 2 top 20 players in those 2 players, but that's not really top tier when you think about it. Much more strength.
And the tickets are so expensive from a fan point of view. They're like astronomical.
They are a lot. And if you're in that area and you want to see Carlos Alcaraz play, I can understand why you'd want to go, because that would be a session that you'd want to book. But you are going to get some slightly interesting matchups of like Kaboli versus Mickelson, for example. We've had some quite odd ones that don't necessarily warrant the hype or the status of this event. So if it gets tight and if it gets exciting, maybe I'll be tuning in, Joel, but I might be watching the golf instead, if I'm really honest, when it comes to this one.
Yeah, it's a very tricky one. I will say 2026, Chris, it is at the O2 in London.
Oh, fantastic. Please let us come. Please invite us. Happy to cover it. Change my mind.
Yes. We are happy to be, proven wrong, but I just think at the moment it really is, a Marmite tournament that I think maybe divides rather than kind of unites fans. And they need to kind of
you either love it or you're not interested at all. I think definitely.
I do. I mean, I would love, I think mixed Laver Cup would be a great way to do that, because I do think there you would get unique combinations. You would get in the general crowd who I think love to see that mixed element. We saw that with, the US Open, where that was a real hit. But I think when you, have it just for the ATP and you don't have all the top players playing, it can feel like a little bit of an exhibition. Yeah. And I think also the fact that you are getting more exhibitions on the tour, like the 6 Kings Slam we've got coming up with Saudi Arabia, it sort of muddies the waters, I think, in terms of, yes, I know they want this event to feel prestigious and unique and something, that is very different to the tour. But the more and more big exhibitions we get, it's harder to know what to make of them, I think.
For sure. And this is an event that basically trades on star power, and they're missing big stars, unfortunately. And what the 6 Slam Kings or 6 King Slam, whatever, I don't get it right. But I mean, that is pretty stacked in terms of who you get. You do get of active players. You do get a good lineup there. So it is obviously in a very different location. So there's lots of question marks about how people feel about that one. But having said that, you've also got UTS, which I really enjoy that as a format, being different. So I think if you're going to be different, I like it when it's more different, probably, or more ATP next gen. Let's really mix it up and have some fun with it. But either way, it's happening. We'll keep you covered, and we will be much less biased next week. I will be enthused about whatever happens, irrespective of the result.
Chris, I'm just looking very quickly before we move on. Who has made the most appearances in the Laver Cup? There are 2 players with 5 appearances each going into this edition.
I think Tiafoe would have been to a lot, and probably Zverev.
That is correct. Yeah, it's Tiafoe and Zverev.
Is it?
Yeah, both 5 appearances out on their own. So yeah, we'll see.
They need it. It's a cash cow for them, I'm sure.
Very quickly, predictions. Team Europe versus Team World. I think Europe lead the head-to-head 5-2. They won the last edition in Berlin 13-11. Do you think they can reclaim their title out in the States?
I think Team World can do it, because I'm looking at the potential doubles partnerships from Team Europe, and I'm struggling a bit. But if you put a Fritz and an Opelka on a court together, I think they could get some doubles rubbers for you. So it might be one in the doubles, I think.
Oh, okay, interesting. I'm hoping, actually, for the sake of the event, Team World win. I think that would be great scenes.
United States
home.
+2.
Yeah, Team America +2.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go Team World, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's very. Yeah, it would be an upset. Let's say if Team World were to win. Right, let's move on and look at some of the events we have got this week, starting with the Billie Jean King Cup Finals. Chris, this has taken me by surprise, and no lie, I don't know if it's taken any of our listeners by surprise as well, but we do have the final, like the final finals. They are here. The knockout.
They're handing out the cup.
Yeah, they're handing out the cup. Davis Cup, we've just got the final 8, but for Billie Jean King Cup, we're down to the knockouts. We've got Italy, China, Spain, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, USA, Japan, Great Britain. One of those will be taking away the 2025 title. What are your immediate thoughts? We've had some of the players announced. Paolini will be leading Italy. China won't have Qinwen Zheng. Badosa is playing for Spain. Ukraine have Svitolina Rybakina and Jessica Pegula. Navarro will be there. As we mentioned, no Emma Raducanu for GB. Where does this leave us in terms of the countries that we have?
Well, firstly, thank goodness it's not the week before the WTA finals, because the last couple of years, that's been an absolute nightmare for players. Or I think it's varied as to when it's been, I think, whether they've been flying to it or flying from it, but it's always had a crossover that's been an absolute nightmare from a scheduling perspective. So glad that's out of the way. So then we can get a lot of good players who are going to be here without sort of questioning their fitness. I think Italy are probably going to be a good bet with Sara Irani as well to kind of go away with the title. I do also think that the US is going to be potentially in the final. I think they're going to live up to expectation. And I think I'm going to go with Italy defending the title. Is my prediction.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Italy do have a strong squad, and it's always great, I think, to have such a class player like Paolini who can be good in the singles and good in the doubles as well. I think those players who can play across both codes are they're like gold dust, I think, in these sorts of events. I'm going to go with the USA. I think USA are going to back up.
After everything we've said.
They're actually going to live up to the billing, I think, for once. I think they've got a good squad. I think in the past, it's not been at the right time. And I think that's been one of the things that has counted against a nation like the USA most. But I do like the look of their squad with Pegula and Navarro.
It's the weaker half of that.
It's the weaker half as well,
the number ones for Japan or Great Britain, whoever wins the Kazakhstan match, which you'd think, unlikely Rybakina can get to in that one. So, yes, I think that's our prediction, but we'll see what we think about the new timing of this. I'm welcoming it, but it is a bit strange, a bit like the mixed doubles at the US Open. I feel like we're handing out the trophy too soon.
Yeah, it's it is.
Caught us off guard, as you said.
It did catch us off guard, but I do think this is quite a good timing, for it when there isn't really, much happening in the tour. But there are tournaments on the WTA and ATP side. We do have a 500, as mentioned, out in Korea. Iga Swiatek is the number 1 seed. Emma Raducanu is there. Alexandrova is the 2nd seed. Kasatkina, Kenin, Clara Tauson. I mean, this feels a little bit more like it in terms of a 500 draw.
We're back in business. It really does feel like. And I also need to say, I didn't say it, but Sloane Stephens was back at the last 500. So she didn't win, but that therefore means it fully warranted.
Win the tournament or win a match?
She won a set. So
okay, there we go.
Yeah, she did indeed. Nice. But there's a big match for you in this one, isn't there? Lamens versus Maria.
Maria, love to see that with the,
It's going to be tricky from the draw. You skip the Billie Jean King Cup Finals, and you've got Christian in round 1. You might have Krejcikova in round 2, and then quarterfinal Iga. It might not be worth it. But
I would love to see. I'd love to see Krejcikova versus Swiatek in a quarterfinal. I think that could be a tasty matchup.
Raducanu Swiatek before could also be tasty.
Yes,
so
very good. Yeah.
Could be interesting.
Lots of interesting matches there. And we do have on the ATP side, we've got Huang Zhao. Andrei Rublev is the top seed here. I'm more interested, though, in the fact that Daniil Medvedev is the 2nd seed. And again, things move so fast, Chris, because not long ago we were debating who is going to be the new coach for Daniil Medvedev. It's Thomas Johansson.
I didn't actually even know that. I've just found that out.
I was googling it earlier, and it's caught me unawares. But Thomas Johansson is Daniil Medvedev's new coach. New sort of fresh, clean start for Medvedev. New coach. Do you think this is going to have an instant impact? Could he win the title here?
Ooh, I mean, it's a good draw to potentially do it, but there are more Grand Slam champions who are playing in Guangzhou than there are at the Laver Cup. So there are 2, and 2 of them could play in the second round. So he could have Cilic. So I'm not thinking necessarily he's going to come through.
And Manarino.
Yeah, and Korda's floating.
Bublik as well. He is definitely in the tougher half, I'd say. Mute is the 4th seed in the top half with Rublev. That feels a lot more comfortable, let's say.
It does indeed.
And finally, we do have Chengdu, a couple of Italians, Darderi and Musetti. Musetti, the top seed, Duderi, the 2nd seed, Nakashima and Greek Sport also there as part of the top 4 seeds. Yeah, I mean, again, not much to say really about this. I mean, Sonego, quite a few Italians. Maybe it's an Italian's turn to win in Chengdu.
It could be. I think, Zverev's won this a few times, so potentially the fact this is clashing means there could be an opportunity for someone else. Darderi's won a lot of matches. Norrie's in the mix. I think it will be interesting to see who does take the opportunity, a bit like what we had on the WTA this week. These are titles up for grabs.
That is very, very true. And very, very exciting as we do head into the Asia swing. Lots and lots happening. We will be wrapping up this latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of ATP and WTA action, Laver Cup, Billie Jean King Cup as well, the Asian Swing. There is so much tennis still to come on the tour. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there. And if you love what you're hearing, be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as well as hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And you can stay connected to us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and X. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, we have a mailbag, as you know, and you can email us your mailbags or you can message us on social media. But the email is tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. We have had a few through during the US Open, Joel. So we have got some mailbags to get through, but we would love some more. And also, as always, check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back next week for another tour catch up. But until then, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.